So we have completed all the steps. Now the final step. We want to make these tabs pretty. So for each tab, we want to add an icon. And for our middle tab, we want to have a big, beautiful round button. Let me show you how to implement this. So here in the app navigator.js, first we're going to import material, community icons from expo/vector icons. Now, for each screen or each tab, we want to set the options prop to an object. Here we set tab bar icon to a function that returns an icon. So material community icons. For our first tab, our icon is home. And for color and size, I'm going to get these from the props, color and size, and apply them here. So rather than hard coding a value, we're going to use what React navigation gives us. This will make sure that the icon has the right color and size. Now, let's repeat this for the other tabs. For the second tab, our icon is +-circle. And for the third tab, our icon is account. Let's test our app. So here's what we get. Beautiful. Now for the middle tab, we're going to have a big round button. So here's our tab. Instead of tab bar icon, we can set tab bar button to a function that returns a React element. So let's create a new component that represents a round button. So here in the navigation folder, let's add a new file called new listing button.js. So I'm not going to implement this inside our components folder because this is not a component we want to reuse somewhere else in our app. This is purely for our navigation structure. It's only used on our tabs. So I want to encapsulate all the details about the navigation inside this folder. Okay. Now let's create a component. Here we have a view as the container. We want to make it round. So let's apply a bunch of styles. First, I'm going to set background color to colors.primary. Now let's give it a height of 80 pixels and a width of 80 pixels. Now to make it round, we have to set the border radius to half the size. That is 40. Now save the changes. Back to App Navigator. Here for tab bar button, let's render a new listing button. Okay, now preview the app. Here's what we get. Let me resize the simulator. That is better. So look, the button is so close to the bottom of the screen. So first we want to push it up. So back to our button. I'm going to set the bottom to, let's say 20. Okay, now we have some space here. That looks better. I also want to apply a border around this button. So currently we have this weird effect. It would be nicer if this white area continued along the top of the circle. So here we set border color to colors.white and border width to 10. Again, I'm trying to sort these properties to make my code more readable. Now let's take a look. So we have this border around our circle. That looks better. Now we want to add a plus icon in the center of the circle. So first we need to set align items to center. Then we set justify content to center. Next, we import material community icons. We actually need a code snippet for this because we import it all the time. So we import it from Expo and then render it inside our container. So the name is +circle. The color is white. So I set it to colors.white and the size, I'm going to set it to, let's say 30. Save the changes. Let's see what we get. So our icon is a bit small. Let's make it 40 pixels. I think that's better. Now, when we tap on this, nothing happens because this view doesn't handle the onPress event. So we need to wrap it inside a touchable component. let's say touchable opacity. Now here we handle the onPress event and simply hook this with the props. So we let the consumer of this component to decide what should happen when we press this button. Okay, now back to our app navigator. So here we want to handle the onPress event. At this point, we want to take the user to the listing edit screen. So here we need the navigation object. Where do we get it from? Well, earlier I told you that this options prop, we can either set it to an object or a function that returns an object. So if we set it to a function that returns an object, now in this function, we get the navigation and route props. So React Navigation automatically injects these props for us. So we don't need the route. Let's just use the navigation. Now we need to wrap the braces inside parentheses. Otherwise, they represent a block of code and not an object. So we need another parenthesis here. Finally, when the user taps on this button, we're going to call navigation.navigate listing edit. Let's save the changes and see what happens. So tap. Here's our listing edit screen. Okay, everything works perfectly. Now, one last thing. I don't like this header on our listing screen. I think that's unnecessary and it's wasting space. So let's go to Feed Navigator. Earlier we set header shown to false only for the listing details screen. Now I would prefer to apply it over here as screen options so we can remove the header from both these screens. So header shown is false. Now we no longer need this options object. Delete, save, and here's the final result. We can look at the details. Everything works perfectly.